The following podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, medical, or any type of professional advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, laws and regulations surrounding sexuality, relationships, and consent can vary by location and are subject to change. If you have specific legal or medical concerns, we strongly recommend consulting with a licensed professional in your jurisdiction. Listener discretion is advised, as this podcast may discuss adult themes and sensitive topics. By continuing to listen, you confirm that you are 18 years or older. Welcome to the Siren of Freedom podcast, sounding the alarm by bringing clarity and freedom to the realm of sexuality. Our aim is to give others a place to share their stories and release themselves from the weight of shame and guilt. Hello, and welcome to a very special edition of the Siren of Freedom podcast. We are launching into a special segment called Diaries of an Ethical Slut. And this will be Siren's hoe phase and beyond. So we're just going to dive into some stories, get juicy with it, and my hubby, Socrates, and producer is going to help keep the flow going, keep the questions coming, and we're just gonna tell some hoe stories. What do you think about that, babe?
They're not ready.
Well, on this side of things, I won't get too crazy. Maybe, but maybe I should. What do you got for me? You got some questions to get us started, or do you just want me to launch in? We're going to introduce a new character into the mix, and we're going to talk about the year 2017, which me and my BFF Mallory, as we're going to call her, she's not here, but she's given me, I didn't ask. I just said, you're going to be on the podcast. I'm going to talk about our hoe stories. And she said, you don't have enough time, but, we can break it up into multiple segments if needed. So I'm confident we'll get through it. So I'm going to share some of our adventures from 2017. So should I just dive into that?
It's up to you. You know me. I always got questions ready for you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about, my friend Mallory and I had been acquaintances for a very long time. And in 2017, we just became closer friends by playing a sport together in our local community with some other women. And at one point in that spring when we were practicing, she said, I think I'm going to go on a trip. And I said, oh, where are you going to go? Because I'd always, up until that point, been taking trips by myself because I couldn't ever get people to get organized to go places. We got to take off work. We got to save up $8,000, and I'm like, let's just fucking go. So Mallory was like, same boat, she's like, let's just fucking go. So she's like, let's go to Vegas. Let's go Memorial Day weekend. And I'm like, bet. I was like, you plan it, I'll Venmo you, and that's kind of how it's always worked with us ever since then. Now I'm the planner. My husband, he gets to be the passenger prince and just go everywhere. He just pays for it, and then I plan it. But with me and Mallory, she's always the planner. So we were staying at Caesar's Palace. We're going to go there for 5 days. We pay for everything, our flights, the room, the whole thing. Well, it gets time to go, and she's like, how much spending money are you going to bring? And I was like, spending money for what? What do we need spending money for? And she's like, well, for like drinks and stuff. And I was like, you're not bringing your vagina? Like, why do we need money to go to Vegas? We're girls. And she's like, I don't really understand what you're talking about. But I'm like, okay, and I don't even know where this confidence came from because I had not been to Vegas and done this, but I just somehow had it in my mind like, we're girls, we don't need money. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna show you how it's done. So we go the first day, and she's like, well, I don't want to like do stuff for drinks or whatever. And I said, we're not gonna have to like do stuff. We're just gonna exist as women in the space, and people will buy us drinks. So we go there the first day. I talk her into going to the topless pool, which I don't even think they have anymore at Caesars, but it's optional. It's optional. But to me, if you go to a topless pool and you don't take your top off, like, come on. Like, what are we even doing? So we go down there. We get our first drink. It's a big old pineapple drink. And it was like $30. And she's like, damn. And I said, well, this is just like our buffer drink. Like, we're not going to need after that to pay for it. And so we get socializing. We're talking to people in the pool. I rip my top right off, like, let's go. And so it's fun. About half the ladies have their tops off. That one drink gets me pretty well going. And so I, sneak up behind her and just like pull the strings of her top. And she's like, fine. So she takes her top off. And we're just socializing with people. Well, it was actually this group of women. They were all in the medical field, and they were down there, and they must have been like, I don't know, at least 10 years older than us. But they immediately invite us over to their cabana. They got food, they've got drinks, like the whole spread. And she's looking at me like, what is going on? And I was like, I didn't say it was going to be men. And she's like, we're making jokes about like, getting kidnapped and Liam Nelson, having to call him to rescue us and stuff like that the whole time. It was a great day. So we met these cool ladies. Nothing bad happened to us. The next day, they invite us to come with them over to Planet Hollywood. Also, I'm definitely looking to get some dick on this trip, right? And first day, nothing. We're just chilling, not really trying to make anything happen. So it's totally fine. I wasn't too experienced at this whole Vegas thing yet. So this was like our first round. But we go to Planet Hollywood, and then that's when we started getting attention. And for me, for some reason, it was a bunch of like Persian guys. They were just like picking me up, throwing me in the pool. We're having fun. The same ladies, they got a cabana, they got food. We offer to like help pay, right? At least that. And they're like, no, we're getting it comped. It's all good. And then Mallory starts making out with some guy from Canada. And now that's a big joke. Like every time she sees a Canadian flag, she's just like, oh, Canada. We don't hook up with anybody at the pool or anything like that either. That night then, though, they're like, let's go to this other place I think it's called Club Chateau, and it's in the Paris hotel. So they got a VIP table there. It's like front and center, right in the middle of the room. And I walk in and I'm like, this is awesome. And all the security guards are super hot. Just tall, good-looking black men, which, if any of you know me in real life, is exactly what I like. And so we're just dancing. We're having a good time. And we have a security guard that's just like assigned to us and 2 other tables. And I was like, well, I need to go to the bathroom. And he's like, well, I'll take you. And I was like, whoa, like they're taking us from our table. We can't just walk there by ourselves. Okay, this is serious. Like, I'm very impressed. And so a couple of times, and then I just kept making up excuses to go to the bathroom just so this hot security guard could like escort us. That was pretty cool. Shout out to him. I'll just say his real name. He doesn't care. Casey. So if you're in Vegas and you meet a security guard named Casey, probably doesn't even work there anymore. Whatever. So another security guard was checking in and he's like, how's everything going? I was like, man, everything's fabulous. I said, I just have one complaint. And he's like, what's that? I said, the hottest guys working here are the guys working here and we can't take them home with us. And he looks at me dead in the eyes and he says, oh, yes, you can. And he's like, we all have cards. He's like, so whoever you want, he's like, just talk to them. He's like, they have a card, their personal cells on it. He's like, and they'll come to your room. And I'm like, blown away. I'm like, what? So I, straight away hit up the guy that was taking care of us. And he's like, yep. He's like, I don't get off till 4. But he's like, I can come. Where are you staying? I was like, we're staying, at Caesar's Palace. He's like, sweet. I halfway didn't think that he was actually going to show up because I was just like, this is crazy. My first real Vegas experience. But nope, he showed up that night and we had a good time. And Mallory's just like laying in the other bed, like trying to sleep, poor thing. And then he leaves and she's like, this is crazy. She's like, we haven't paid for anything. You already got some dick. It's like the second night, right? So not too bad. The next day, we go to another pool place. Just chill. Just some regular dudes just like buy us drinks. Oh, yeah, we went back to the topless pool at Caesar's. And then we met some guys there. Well, then Mallory ends up going with one of those guys and hooking up with him in his room. I'm like, finally, but she likes white boys. So it was like, this is easy. There's hundreds of them. So I had the security guard the one night, but I was still like, let me see what's going on. The last day, these ladies leave and they are like, you just got to go to this place, Club Rehab. It used to be, I think Resort World. Yeah, Resort World. That used to be the Hard Rock. And then this Club Rehab was the pool spot there. And they're like, you go there, you talk to Victor, like he'll hook you up. And we're just blown away because the whole weekend, we probably got like $7,000 or $8,000 worth of free shit. Just like hanging out, just like I had said, even though I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. Okay. So this is Saturday. We go to Club Rehab. We ask for Victor. The line is so long. We're like, man, we're not going to get in this place. Oh, no. Victor comes out, stamps our hands. We don't pay one dime. And he takes us in. We didn't have like a table or anything, but he takes us ahead of everybody and shows us in. He's like, here you go. He's like, here's a couple beverage tickets. He's like, you're set. Well, we start walking up the crest of the little hill to get into the pool area. And then I just grab Mallory's arm because before my eyes is hundreds and hundreds of chocolate men. Like the whole place is just nothing but fine black men. And she immediately slumps her shoulders and she's like, oh, nothing here for me. And I was like, bitch, listen, you get shit all the time. Like, this is my time to shine today, okay? You're going to ride with me. We're going to like go here and you're going to be happy about it, okay? You're going to help me. You're going to be a wing woman. I've been doing it for you this whole trip. She's like, fine, So we go and we try to find like a little spot. Well, there's just white-haired, like white ginger-haired guy, and he's got like, all this sunscreen on and a straw hat. And she's like, I'll just talk to this guy. It'll be fine. And I was like, okay, fine. Well, I look through the pool and I see this fine-ass man, and it's like the waters parted, and I just like went straight to him. And I was like thinking the whole time, I don't know what I'm going to say to this guy, but I have to talk to him. So I go up there and then first thing that popped in my head was I just said, you look lonely and I came to keep you company. And then I'm like, that is so stupid. I immediately thought it was stupid. But he just put his arm around my waist and he pulled me close and he's like, you're absolutely right. Thank you so much. And then we just started talking. And then he turned his phone number into a math problem so that I could remember it. And I was like, oh, I have to remember this phone number. And he's like, if you remember my phone number, he's like, hit me up. We're going to the Lil Wayne concert tonight, me and my boys. And he's like, we got a table. Like, you can come with us. So I'm like desperately trying to remember this math problem, right? I get to the edge of the pool. And after I hung out with him for a while, I didn't like immediately run. But then the whole time I'm like not really listening to him because I'm trying to remember this math problem because I'm like, this is the finest man I've ever seen in my life. So I get back to the edge and then, I remember the math problem. I text him. It's right. I'm like, yes, I feel like I hit the jackpot. And then my friend is like, this is awesome. She's like, you going to go with them? And I was like, yeah, if it works out, I don't know. This is crazy. This is all just flowing so well. So we hang out. It was Machine Gun Kelly was actually the one that was playing that day. So that was pretty cool because we were kind of like, who's that? And now everyone knows who he is. So we like, never shy from an opener because, just never know what they're going to end up being. So that night, her and I go out to dinner. The guy was like, we're just going to call him what we call him normally, Florida boy. He was from Florida. He was there for like a bachelor party, guys' weekend, something. And he texts me and he's like, we're walking into the Cromwell right now. And I was like, right there. And so I just walked in and we like met at the exact right time to walk into this concert together because there was tons and tons of people. I don't know if I could have found them otherwise, like obviously cell phones, but there was just so many people. And then I'd never been to like a club like that, with all this. It was even bigger and crazier than the one at Paris. So they take us, ahead of everybody. We got a table. It's me and like 10 black guys and one Asian guy. And he's like, yeah. They were all making fun of him and stuff. Well, we go up to the table. It's like right by the stage. Super cool. And I'm like, am I just going to be the only girl? But the guys, they went and found ladies. They brought all these ladies to the table. It was super fun, super cool. And then at the end of the night, I'm like, oh yeah, earlier I had told him, hey, you don't have to roofie me because you can't rape the willing. I was like, you're definitely getting laid tonight. So like, don't waste your roofie on me. Like I'm totally with it. And he still teases me about that to this day, but it was just funny. We're just laughing about it. So then we go back to the room. Mallory's already in bed. She wasn't so fortunate to find anyone that night. And up until this point, I feel like, man, I've been divorced for like 5 years. I've been getting around. I've been hoeing, right? And I think I am somebody, with the sexual experience, right? All 5 years of it. And that night was like crazy. It was like 5 hours of just like being tossed around and smacked and bitten and like choked and like all this stuff that is like out of some movie. And I had like bruises all over, bite marks. I had a handprint on my stomach from just like him holding on to me so tight. And poor Mallory is in the bed next to us. And at one point she just says, would you all quit whispering? I'm trying to take notes. So we have like all these little hashtags from that trip. And then, or she said, don't worry about me because me and this pillow about to get it tonight. Like just funny stuff like that. But it was just like a night I'll never forget. And then a few years later, I actually ended up dating him. And that was the guy that I dated before I met Socrates and married him. And Socrates, I thought Florida boy had like this sexual thing going on. No, it was like nothing. It was like nothing. So that was my first real Vegas experience.
So you have always told me how special 2017 was, right? So, but you had been hoeing before that, right? So what makes 2017 special considering you were already in the groove?
Well, because I had Mallory. And it just made it so much more exciting and so much more adventurous because we went on these trips together or around town. Like we would go downtown, we would pick up guys downtown, or they would pick us up or whatever. A few times, like we even just like went back to her house and like fucked guys in like separate rooms, left the doors open so we could hear. We already had that crazy Vegas weekend together. And she was already right there in the next bed over, so she saw and heard anything she wanted to that night. And so after that, it was just like, anything goes. So we just had so much fun. And like one night, there was a guy, we were walking back to our car and he was hollering at her. And then I said, go talk to him. So she talked to him and then ended up linking up with him another time. And then they just kind of lost touch Well, a few months later, I found him on Facebook and she just kept talking about him. Oh, man. Like, let's call him Kyle. Kyle was the best. He was so great. And I was like, well, whatever happened? She's like, oh, I just kind of lost touch. I'm like, well, why don't you reach out to him? And she's like, it's just like past and all this stuff, all these excuses. So I looked up Kyle on Facebook and I actually talked to him and he was like, man, I don't know what happened. Like, I'd really like to reconnect with her. And so I had him show up at her birthday party that year and surprise her. And she was like so happy. She's like, you still have the prize for best birthday gift. So just fun stuff like that. And then like that night, like he came back, like most of us were too drunk to go anywhere. So we all Ubered back to her house. We were all in these rooms, but like we could just hear them enjoying themselves in the next room. And that was just really fun to just like bring that element and then get to hear it. So that's just what made it it was like something that we were doing together, but not together. Like we didn't have, any group activities or threesomes or anything like that. But we were just out there for the same thing, just to have fun being single women.
So anybody knows me knows that I don't have a jealous bone in my body. And I have probably experienced maybe 10 jealous moments my entire life. And 3 of them have been with my wife. But one thing I am jealous of is the Vegas stuff because I lived 3.5 hours driving distance from there. I've been there since I was a child and I never got to have the old story of your boys going to Vegas and chasing women or whatever. But I have a question, and I think the root of why I'm jealous is because I don't know how to explain this, and I'm probably going to get in trouble saying it this way, but my wife is hot, and I don't expect you to believe that. When you see my wife, you'll agree, especially if you like slim, thick, then you're just like, anyway. My point is, and I say this, how do I say it? I say this with the proudest and biggest fan, and I have no issue with this whatsoever. It would actually be great for me to debate people on body count and things like that. But my wife is not only the easiest person to approach, she will approach you. And the reason why I said all that is because I'm a halfway decent looking dude and I don't have nowhere near the amount of times been approached as I would have liked to. And my wife just told this story of, a very attractive dude. I might say myself, way more attractive than me. He's taller, he's better looking than me. In my opinion, the dude's a good looking guy. And she approached him. So I want to ask you, what made you so different to the point where you don't have to at all? You travel well, you're a very attractive woman, you know how to dress, you have great, bubbly personality. You don't have to approach or make it insanely easy for guys to talk to you. Where did you get that from and why are you like that?
Well, I think I've just never really appreciated the whole game playing that women do with men. Like, that's never been my style. Playing hard to get, like all this stuff. Like, I just see something in life or life that I want and I just go after it. So I think that tenacity for just like goals is like the same way that I would approach men when I was single. Is like, hey, I see this guy, I'm just gonna go talk to him. Like all these women would be like, oh, he, and giggling and like, oh, I wonder if he'll come talk to me. Well, like, you don't know what that situation's gonna turn into. Like, he ended up being a super cool boyfriend and still is like, I would consider somebody that I can reach out and ask a question to or talk to with total comfortability to this day. And so I just think, man, just grab life and go. So that's what I think it is. And I don't know. I have been in a lot of sales. Like, I'm not afraid of rejection. You know, I've been told no in sales situations or different things in business. And so I'm not afraid of being rejected. So, like, the worst thing that could happen is like, ooh, no, bitch, you're ugly and fat or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? I already like prepared myself, you know, for that. But everything in that trip was so easy and flowing so well. And the manifestations were just going. So I just was like, go for it, you know, in that case.
Well, you brought it up. Do you want to, and this is not our subject matter. Do you want to talk about the manifestation stuff? Because, you know, for people who don't know, Siren is a very, very big believer in the law of attraction, manifestation. And so, did you want to get into that?
Well, maybe just the manifestation stuff. So I know a lot of people my whole goal when I got divorced in 2012 was to not become a man hater, to not become bitter, to, you know, localize my anger only on my ex-husband, not on all men. You know, a lot of women will get divorced and they're just like, all men are stupid and horrible and are trash and, you know, all this stuff. Well, I didn't believe that and I didn't want to embody that spirit. I saw lots of men around me that were great fathers, great husbands, and, you know, and I don't even think that like my ex-husband is like a horrible person or anything. I just think he's a horrible person for me. Right? It's like oil and water. Like sometimes two good people just don't mix, you know? So I just wanted that to be my focus, is that there are great men out there. And then also, you know, if you ever sit with your girlfriends and listen to them talk that are single, and they will say things like, well, I don't want somebody who's broke, and I don't want somebody who lives in their mom's basement, and I don't want this, and I don't want that. And they talk about what they don't want. And manifesting is all about inviting into your life what you do want. So then over the course of being single, I started a manifestation list. And I would interact with a man for, you know, a date or maybe more. And if it didn't work out, then I would just grab something from that interaction, a positive, like, oh, that guy's a great dad, or he's really driven in work, or he takes care of his health. And I just started making a list of all the things that I did want. And over time, like, I just really honed in and I looked at it all the time. I just focused on that. And then when I met my husband, I was like, this is everything on the list plus more. It was like, here's your list plus bonus features. So, you know, that and a variety of other things helped me to decide that he was the one. But I could just tell in my heart and my spirit right away. But then just comparing everything to that list that I made of all the things that I did want. So focusing on what you do want and going after it is like really something I believe in and try to embody.
With that, like, assertive mentality you have about going after what you want, another thing that people would be interested to know about Siren is she's very submissive woman. And you have to understand, this woman was a very successful businesswoman when I met her. She could have spent and had the money if she wanted to spend the money in Vegas. And she had all of her own stuff and was well-traveled before I even met her. And so she, you know, I'm very traditional in that way. And I'm like, well, you know, if you're going to be with me, I'm head of household, I'm leading, I have final word, but, you know, obviously take my wife's, you know, thoughts and feelings into consideration. You are the reason why, you know, I'm building all these things. My point being, she balances you balance being an assertive, well-to-do businesswoman who has no problems dealing with confrontation, no problems going after what you want. How do you balance that with the fact that when you're around me, you're probably the most submissive woman that I know at this point?
Well, I think that just has to do with my faith too. And that, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. And the way that we approach submission in our marriage versus how it was approached in the church that I used to go to and in my previous marriage was, you know, they always talked about loving your wife and leading her to submission, but a lot of the men didn't know how to do that. So they didn't know how to love their wife into that space. And then at some point, too, in our marriage, I just surrendered not to you, but to Yahweh. And I was just like, okay, this guy's kind of a knucklehead in some areas, and I don't know where this is going to go, but I trust you, Yahweh, that my husband's responsible. He's responsible for whatever happens in this. So I'm just going to submit. So it's a dual submission. And that's what makes it easier, because to submit to a man who's just a human, right? You make mistakes. You have flaws. That's what makes it, I don't want to say easier, but made my heart more willing, is that I wasn't just submitting to you. I was submitting to you who had submitted first. You had first submitted to Yahweh. And so when it's in that proper order, the three parts of Yahweh, you, and then the wife, it's like a protection. It's a covering. It's not me submitting to you because you're strong-arming me. It's because you're inspiring and loving me, and you first submitted to Yahweh. So then when I do it in that space, then everywhere else where I need to be a boss-ass bitch, I can be, because there is so much rest and so much comfort and so much peace in knowing that this part of my life is taken care of. So if I need to handle something at work, or, you know, be in a business space, like I've been all the way in boardrooms with like really, high up executives in companies, to a little old lady down the street, anybody. I don't have a problem speaking up when I need to, but then it's knowing, and I've had to learn over the years of when there is to be that quiet and submissive time. So it's just a dance, it's balance, but knowing when things are in the proper order, that's what gives me that peace to go ahead and do it.
I definitely want to head up an episode where we talk about our religious beliefs. So for those that don't know, Yahweh is the Hebrew name of God. And I know a lot of people might be like, how are they talking about hoeing and then have such a religious background? We'll discuss that in a
that's a
future
different episode for sure.
That's a whole nother one. But with that being said, without bringing the religious in, because you were this way, you had the same beliefs that I do about the subject before we met.
Right.
And we both, I always joke that we both come from I don't mind saying religious fanatic parents. Like, I don't mind saying my dad is a religious fanatic and a minister, and he's one of those guys where he's lightened up now, he's got a girlfriend, but he's one of those guys where you couldn't even mention football or politics or whatever's happening down the street without him mentioning Yahweh and the gospel. And your father's the same way. Worse. And your father's pretty much the same now. But
I prefer to say more intense.
More intense. There you go.
Because for them, it's not worse, right? It's better. It's more enthusiastic. Exactly. It's more passionate.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's great. But without that part, how are you settled in your heart? Because what's really interesting to me is that Siren's sexual life is a dojo for her. It is the best place for her to learn every kind of lesson there is. And so you have this peace of mind. You could be the biggest horror that has whored the whoredoms. But you have this peace of mind, your relationship with God, your peace in who you are as a person, and the two shall not twain. Like they're not oil and water. They work well for you. And before I can't take any credit for it. I just kind of added a little bit more religious, like, structural foundation to it. But you already had it settled in your heart. How did you arrive there?
Well, when I was first just like going through the turmoil of divorce, I just like had all this like upheaval. And I had a counseling pastor at church, and he just gave me just some peace about it too, where he was just like, God made you a sexual creature. He made you, to have these desires. And he said, ideally when you grow up and you're young and you get married and you have this family, and you are faithful to each other, he's like, that's one thing. But he said, when your marriage breaks apart with no fault of your own, he said, he's like, I feel like there's a loophole, for lack of a better term. And he's just like, people, it's single. You've already had sex in your marriage, and to like go backwards to like, be a born again virgin, and like people do it, he's like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but he's like, it's very hard. And so when I was just going through all of that turmoil and just like questioning everything that I believed and where I wanted to be, I had another friend too that asked me how I could justify that. And I just was like, you know what? I have a relationship with God that doesn't depend upon anyone else's rules. And he knows where I'm at. I know where we're at. And I just talk to him as if he's my best friend, Like sometimes I swear when I pray. I'm just a real authentic, person. And then I had, people say, hey, I've never been religious or had any interest in God, but if I ever do, you would be the first person that I would come and talk to, because you just present it in such an authentic manner of like, I don't pretend that I'm doing every single thing right or that I've got it all figured out. Like, any good in me is God was my motto for 1 year. Every year I usually like had a different motto of like what I was, trying to work on or think about. And any good in me is God was one of my mottos. And then I just had a lot of talks. I had a lot of talks with God. And I was just like, you made me this way. You made me this creature that just has such a desire for sexual things and to explore. And, for 10 years I was locked in this marriage, didn't get to explore any of that. Then, I become single. I'm like, now's the time, everyone's consenting, doing things as ethically as possible. I don't know. I just had a peace about it because I just am in constant, communication with God about it. So I don't know. Just if you tell me scripture to back it up, I can't do that. I just know that I have a personal relationship with God, and me and God are good.
Well, I can, and that's going to be a really interesting and controversial episode. So let me give people.
That's what I have you for that part. Because I was just like, in my heart, I just know I'm good.
Yeah. I can't wait for that episode. I think that would be the first episode. We haven't had an email yet from anybody, so if you have questions or want us to work on a subject, you can email us at the sirenoffreedom@gmail.com. Put the episode. If you're discussing a certain episode, put that in there, even the minute that you want to discuss. But my next question is, kind of giving people a background or a little bit of more context on what she means. If the American Psychological Association did not remove sex addict from its list of addictions, I would call my wife a sex addict or a nymphomaniac. I mean, she has the kind of sex drive I've never seen in my life. And she's in you know, you're in that age in in your life where, you know, everybody says, oh, you know, you just go crazy with sex, but you've been this way since you were a kid. So I say all that to say, when she says God made me this way, when I say she has had an insanely high sex drive for a very long time, and the fact that she's in her 40s and perimenopausal and all that kind of stuff has nothing to do with it. Maybe it adds a little more, but no. And so with that being said, what kind of advice would you give to a woman who comes from a conservative or religious background? And we're going to be more specific this time. We'll talk about other categories later. But the woman like you, who's just always, no matter what the church said or society, you know, there's a red pill community that are preaching if she has more than 5 body count, don't mess with her. We don't agree on that. And I'm going to talk about that in the future. But she's struggling. She's very high sex drive. She really wants to explore that in a safe, ethical way, right? What kind of advice would you give to them, especially if they have, which you do, you know, religious parents and a religious community to be worried about?
Well, send me an email and we'll talk more. I have more resources that I won't necessarily talk about on this side of the podcast. We talk about more of that stuff on Patreon, but I'd be happy to answer questions via email. But my best advice would just be like, there's always going to be somebody who's judging you. That's going to hate you for what you do. And that's where I say you just have to have the peace with God and that relationship, because everybody else is going to give you their rules and how you should live and have an opinion. Even if you do things exactly the way the Bible talks about and exactly the way the pastor preaches, somebody's still going to criticize you. So if you have that desire to go out there and explore, do your research, you know, find safe ways to explore these things, and don't fucking worry about your body count. Like, I don't even know what mine is, like, before I met my husband, and like over 100 when I met him, and he was like, who cares, you know? So you'll find the right person for you if you want to settle down and get married someday. So just enjoy your life, be safe, you know. I always would let people know, like, you know, I'd always let a girlfriend know where I was going and what I was doing and who I was with and all of that stuff. So there is safety precautions as a single woman. Just, I mean, I won't say that I was 100% smart all the time. Okay. So learn from that. But, you know, just the basic safety things, you know, use protection, like get tested. Like, but other than that, it's like just go out there and start enjoying things, because there's really cool men out there that, you know, the negative word for them would be player. But I, even back then, would call them just lovers of women. Like, they will love you for the 2 hours that you're with them, or for the day, or for the weekend, or for a lifetime. They just enjoy pleasing women. They enjoy being around them. And I just call them lovers of women. I don't call them players. Those guys never treated me bad. They never said, like, I have had honestly very few negative experiences in the hoe space. I had way worse experiences in my first marriage, like way more tear down. And the guys since then have done nothing but built me up, from like the confidence about my body to just feeling beautiful again. Like, I have all of those men to thank for just giving me bricks to rebuild myself. So,
Why do you think a lot of women are just complaining about, or having, not just complaining, but having real issues with, you know, the quality of sex, finding guys like, okay, there's plenty of women out there that are like, okay, yeah, I'm liberated, I'm free, I go out there and I'm going to get as much as guys do, but they're not enjoying themselves as much as you did. And they're not experiencing these kind of men that consecutively, date after date, guy after guy, complimenting you and building you up. Because I remember talking about when we first met, and I was so used to, especially because I like slim, thick, or curvy, or hourglass, 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, whatever. And I'm always used to building them up because they were always so used to being torn down or criticized about their weight or criticized about, whatever. And I'm a halfway decent looking guy. So they were like, well, you're an attractive guy. Why are you with me? And why do you believe these things? And I'm like, because I know the facts, and we'll talk about the facts later about, curvy women and the real attraction to them. But I guess my question to you is like, how did you find yourself being able to constantly end up with a guy that, okay, maybe isn't the one, maybe you guys had a negative experience, but for the most part it's positive. For the most part, you came away with a lot of positive experiences and memories consecutively. How did you do that when a lot of women nowadays are just lamenting about how difficult it is to find one or two of those?
Again, it's the same principles as making that manifestation list. Like, I'm not talking about the negative stuff, am I? It's like I could tell you every single guy along, that treated me bad and did this and did that, but I'm not talking about them. I'm not focusing on them. Sometimes you do have to kiss a bunch of frogs to find your prince, but you can't complain along the way. It's just part of the process. It's like, do you think that every single one of those 100 dudes before you blew me out of the water and gave me the biggest orgasm ever? No. But I chose with each experience to take away something good from it. Even if it was me and Mallory would say, even if it was a terrible time, I remember you were telling a story one time about this guy and his dick was just so small that he couldn't even penetrate her. She's like, he has kids and I don't know how. And very attractive guy, had a lot of other things going for him, but it just wasn't a good experience. And
hey, us micro penis men need love too,
I know, that's why I married you. It's fine. My charity work. Stop, you're getting me off track. But even that, at the very least, we'd be like, well, we have a good story to tell our friends, So even if it was an experience that wasn't earth shattering, we would still, take away something good from it. And so that's just was our focus instead of building, taking the bricks of oh, this guy had a small penis, this guy didn't know how to eat pussy, this guy stunk, this guy had Swiss cheese stuck to his nightstand when I went to his house. That's a real story. Or there was crumbs all over his wolf blanket that he laid me on, there's a million things. And I could have a whole podcast and episode about that, but I'm choosing to focus on those. So it's not that every guy was gold. It's just that every guy was either a lesson or a blessing, right? And I just that's what I choose to focus on.
Okay, so final question. What's the biggest lesson or takeaway from 2017 that you live by today?
That's a good question. I think that what I learned from that year, and by the way, we went to Vegas 2 more times that year. We went to a music festival, concerts, all kinds of things. But it was really just to go into every event, every room, every situation with new people and look at what is possible and look for possibility of either somebody and we just always try to meet new people. So whenever I go into a new situation now, we've named it Calm, Safe, and Excited, but I just try to go into every situation with what's possible because you just never know, who you're going to meet, what's going to happen, just those ladies. It's some of those ladies I still keep in contact with to this day. When we went back the couple other times, those ladies were there. They even got rooms comped for us like one time. Just nice people. So you just never know. And it doesn't always look like what you think the package is going to look like. My friend went thinking a bunch of dudes are going to buy us drinks. No, it was mostly women, that bought us drinks and stuff. And not with any sexual undertone either, just friendly, nice people. So just go into every situation with an open mind and open heart and seeing, what's possible.
I love it.
Mallory was right when I was telling her about this. She's like, you're not going to have enough time. And we have already, how long have we already been on here?
51 minutes.
Yeah, it happens. So every host story might have to be a whole episode. Who knows? We'll try to, I'm going to try to get her to be on here eventually, but we'll see. So, well, more adventures with Mallory. It's funny because we used to joke about that we should have a blog or something and, call it like our town's name and something babes or whatever. But here we are talking about it on a podcast. So more to come on that, but we're going to end it for now. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much for listening today. We hope this podcast has been an encouragement to you. You can find us on our website, thesirenoffreedom.com, and also on social media and Patreon under the Siren of Freedom podcast. Your support is what helps us continue to sound the alarm of freedom.